other day, I was on Twitter, and there's this friend of mine, this streamer friend of mine, who put out a tweet, okay? And the tweet looked like this. So it says, streamers used to bring me so much happiness, now it's just another place for stress and self-doubt. Every so often, I ask myself, is it worth it? A year or so ago, I would give a resounding yes. Today, I'm not so sure. In 3 years, what have I really accomplished? And my heart just hurt because I've gone through this exact same thing. This sort of feeling of burnout and like is what I'm doing even worth it? I've gone through this exact same thing to the point where I you know, like, didn't stream for months. I thought about like just deleting my entire like Discord channel and just everything. So I just had this like really super deep desire to help in some way, and I get it. Like it's a similar feeling I get to like when women are on their moon cycle, and I like desperately want to like do something for them to help them, like send them chocolate or like massage their feet or like whatever. I don't know, but like just like a really deep desire to help. So what I did was I wrote a Patreon article about it. So this is, I retweeted the tweet and I said, just saw this tweet talking about burnout. Burnout is something I've struggled with. I see so many content creators struggle with this. I wanted to try to help. I wrote a blog post about it here. So if you go to, did I not bring it up? Did I not? Oh, I did. Okay, good. So if you go here, there's an article that I wrote about it. You can type in ! burnout. And I have gotten to a point in my life where I think that I have discovered the reasons that burnout has happened, and I've discovered the antidote for burnout. I've discovered how to avoid burnout, at least with content creation. And I think that a lot of this, not all of it, some of it is specific to content creation, but I think that a lot of it can be applied to your life as well. So the first part, the first part is why burnout happens, and there's 3 reasons why burnout happens. The first one is self-hate, and in the article I'm like, here we go again, tech talking about self-improvement stuff, but it's really important. So like self-hate is something that is it's a pandemic. Like it's everywhere. I just see it everywhere. It's like cool to hate yourself. Like it's celebrated to hate yourself. Everybody hates themselves. And so taking a look and asking the right questions of what, like, where that self-hate is coming from, because I think that as people, we don't naturally hate ourselves. It's a learned behavior. We sort of learn to hate ourselves from society treating us in certain ways. And so really like taking the time to do like some self-examination and figure out where that's coming from, I think can be really helpful. And then I always recommend therapy to people. I think even if you're in really good mental health, even if you're like, no, like I'm pretty confident in myself, I think that therapy, it just like you would, you know, go to the doctor regularly for a checkup. So yeah, so that's the first part, because what I realized was that I was always pretty confident in my personality, but I was not confident in my appearance. And I didn't realize that when you hate any part of yourself, when you actually hate any part of yourself, it leaches onto all the other parts. It just like grabs onto all the other parts and becomes toxic and just goes everywhere. And it's gross and nasty. And so when Birdie sort of like shifted my perspective and like made me realize that I could be beautiful in a different way, it was really life-changing for me. And so because that sort of toxicity was like insidiously sneaking everywhere, I didn't realize how much it was affecting my burnout. I didn't realize that one of the reasons that I was struggling so much with being consistent and everything was because I was so frustrated with myself. And so realizing that, helped me incredibly. Kind of interesting. Okay, so that is the most sort of like esoteric, sort of, you know, like mental healthy part of the and probably the hardest part of the burnout equation. Okay, so this is the first way to avoid burnout, is to work on any sort of like self-hate that you're harboring. Okay, and if you're wondering what this article is, you can type in !burnout. This is a blog post that I wrote recently in response to something that I saw on Twitter. Okay, so then the second thing is bad ROI. So ROI is a marketing term, and it means return on investment, okay? And return on investment just means that when you put money into something, and it whatever it yields back, okay? So let's say, as a very simple example, you put $100 into something, and it only gives you back $25, okay? That would be a bad ROI. You would not have made a good profit on that investment, okay? Whereas if you invest $100 in something and you get $1,000 back, that's a great ROI. You would want to invest more in that. That's awesome. So the cool thing about ROI is that it can apply to more than just money, and I see this a lot. I see this a lot with not just in content creation, but in a lot of areas of people's lives, where people are investing incredible amounts of energy, incredible amounts of time, incredible amounts of money, just investing so much into things that are giving them bad ROI. And I think it's a really useful thought experiment to think like, hey, where am I investing my time and energy? And what kind of returns am I getting from it? So like, for instance, I invest an incredible amount of time and energy into Birdie. But the reason that I do that is because in my sort of like devotion to Birdie, I have found what I feel like is the closest thing that I've ever experienced to like enlightenment, to spirituality, like whatever it is. This was in my vows. I talked about this in my wedding vows. I just get so much back from my devotion to Birdie. It has fundamentally changed my life and improved my life millions of times over. I think that I would probably be I think that I would probably be some sort of like evil, violent kid if it weren't for Birdie. I mean, evil, violent adult if it weren't for Birdie. And I know that sounds ridiculous, like looking at me now, but when I was younger, I used to like I was so like insecure and paranoid that if I saw my friends like whispering about something and they wouldn't tell me what it was, I would assume that they were talking about me, and I would do things like I always had like long nails as a kid because I hated cutting my nails and my parents like had trouble making me. And so I would like dig my nails into the back of their neck, or I would like slap them really hard on the back of the head. And I was just and there were a couple of times where I got so like I had so much like pent up anger and stuff that I got so frustrated with someone that I ended up like putting my hand around their neck. Like I was not okay. And so and that all sort of faded and went away when Birdie came into my life. So looking at your relationships and looking at like again, Ramit has a really cool thing that he talks about like show me a man's show me a person's calendar and I'll tell you their priorities in life. Like where you spend your time and effort and money and all of that sort of thing is hugely important to your own mental health and by extension your burnout. So like with content creation, if you are just on the heckin' grind, if you're just streaming 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, and you're not seeing growth, maybe that's suggesting that is a bad ROI. That's a bad investment. You're making a bad investment, and you should be investing elsewhere. So one of the big things that Devin Nash talks about a lot is you should be streaming less, and you should be using that time that you're streaming less to build your brand on platforms that have discovery, like YouTube, like Twitter, like Instagram. Places like that are going to not only you're going to see more growth from them, but then by extension, you will bring more people over to Twitch. So like if you're really passionate about Twitch, like for me, I love Twitch. Like creating on YouTube is not as fulfilling for me as streaming on Twitch. I love streaming on Twitch. At least not yet. We'll see. Maybe it'll get there. But so the reason that I work so hard on my YouTube and invest so hard in my YouTube is so that I can sort of supplement my Twitch. But I stream very little because I spend that time doing other things that have better ROI. So yeah. So this is I really love this concept, and I think that it might be an original concept, like applying ROI to your like own personal relationships. I think that I might have come up with that, maybe. So I mean, like, I don't think that I ever read that somewhere, so that's kind of cool that I came up with that. Okay, and then the final thing is bad boundaries. This one is incredibly hard for me. Because I have lost a lot of friends. I've lost a lot of friends, and what there's a concept called parasocial relationships. And the idea of a parasocial relationship is it's when a consumer of media, whatever kind, thinks that they have a closer relationship with the person than they actually do, because they feel like they know them. And I think that Twitch is basically built on this concept. Twitch is basically built on the idea of parasocial relationships, and I think that times are changing, and that you can genuinely be friends with your community, you know, as a content creator, and as you know, as y'all in the community, like, you can genuinely be friends with the content creators that you interact with. But I had to make a shift, because what would happen is I would latch on to an individual or to individuals in my community, and I would they would sort of be my rock. And the nature of content creation is that people are gonna come and go. Like, you are going to have attrition. Even there are things that you can do to lessen the amount that people come and go 100%. You can increase your retention, but you are always going to have attrition no matter what. And so I had to use this concept. I had to develop this concept called crowd surfing. And the way that I look at crowd surfing is that I lean back on my community, and whoever is there carries me. And supports me and holds me up. And that makes it so much easier when people shift in and out of the community. It makes it so much easier to feel supported, to still feel supported, and not to feel like I'm falling flat on my face, because I'm not leaning on any one individual. I'm just being supported by whoever is in my community at the time. And this was a huge source of burnout for me, because I would be going strong, and I'd be like, as long as I have this person, I can keep pushing. And then that person would leave, and I'd just be forked. I would just collapse and fail and die. My biggest burnout, like the point where like I almost like deleted my community and everything, was because of this issue, because of bad boundaries. So learning to lean on your community as a whole rather than leaning on individuals. And that is not to say like this is a very intimate conversation. Like, this is getting like into really deep stuff with me. Like, I still feel like I have very deep connections with all of you, but if you decide to leave, it's not going to ruin me. And I think that is something that should be true in all relationships. I always tell people, and I can't believe that I always practice this in my personal relationships, but I never practice it in my content creation. I always tell people when it comes to their personal relationships, because I talk to so many people where they're like, hey, I want to break up with this person, but I'm afraid that you know, that they're gonna hurt themselves, or that blah blah blah, something like that. And I always tell them, when you get into a relationship, you have to, you're signing a contract. You're saying, if we decide that we don't fit well together anymore, it is okay for us to leave each other. That has to be okay. If it is not okay, it's a toxic relationship. It has to be okay for either side at any time to decide to leave one another. And so the same has to be true here, you know? It has to be true in your content creation too. So this concept of crowd surfing makes it so that I am no longer creating a toxic relationship between me and my community. No longer am I saying like, hey, I need these people to be here in order for me to feel okay, because that's super toxic. Like, that's like borderline abusive if that were in a one-on-one relationship. So instead, you lean on your community as a whole, and you say, you know, like, as long as I have my community, I'll be okay. So yeah, that is those are the 3 areas of what causes burnout and how to avoid it. I hope you all liked this talk.